Hello everyone. So today we are going to talk about the directive principles of state policy. Okay, so today is the eighth chapter on the directive principles of state policy. So let's get started. The directive principles of state policy are mentioned in Part 4 of the Constitution from Article 36 to 51. So, from Article 36 to 51, the directive principles of state policy are mentioned. So, what are these? These are the set of guidelines for the welfare of the state. What does this mean? This means that these directive principles, they are the provisions, okay, they are the provisions for the welfare of the people, for the welfare of the state. Okay, we will explain, we will understand this further when we'll talk about the different articles. Okay, it borrowed from the Irish Constitution. So the directive principles of state policy has been borrowed from the Irish Constitution. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar described these principles as noble features of the Indian Constitution. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he said that the directive principles of state policies are the noble features of the Indian Constitution. The directive principles, along with the fundamental rights, is the existence of the Constitution and is the soul of the Constitution. So, the directive principles and the fundamental rights, they are the most important part of our Constitution. The phrase directive principles of state policy denotes the ideals of the state should keep in mind while formulating policies and enacting laws. Okay, so these things, this means that the directive principles of state policy, whenever the state, okay, whenever the state it is trying to make any new policies and laws, then they should keep these directive principles in mind. Okay, they should take these things into consideration when they are making any laws or any policies. Okay, so they are the recommendation of to the state in legislative, executive and administrative matters. The directive principles constitute a very comprehensive economic, social, and political program for the modern democratic state. So they it in the directive principles, there are very comprehensive economic, social, and political programs for a democratic state. Okay, they aim, okay, their vision is to give it's at realizing the high ideals of justice, liberty, equality and fraternity as outlined in the preamble of the Constitution. Okay, so this thing means that their vision is to enhance, okay, their vision is to enhance the ideas of justice, liberty, equality and fraternity, which is there in a preamble of the Constitution. So they try to enhance the preamble. Basically, whatever is mentioned in a preamble, the justice should be given to all, then fraternities, that the brotherhood should be there amongst all the citizens, and all this equality should be there amongst everyone. So all these things which has been mentioned in a preamble, the directive principles, they enhance those things. Okay, the directive principles are non-justiciable in nature, that is, they are not legally enforceable by the courts for their violation. What does this mean? Okay, see, the fundamental rights, they are justiciable in nature, which means that if your fundamental rights are being violated, then you can approach the court. Okay, and the court will give you justice. But directive principles are non-justiciable in nature, which means that if your directive principles are violated, then you cannot go to the court for their violation. Why is this? See, when we got our freedom, okay, when we got our freedom, at that time there was very less money left in the nation. Okay, the British, they took away most of the money and all that things. So at that time, what the founders of a constitution, and what the nation can do for its people was, as there was no money, there was no infrastructure and all those things. Okay, so at that time the nation can only provide the fundamental rights. Okay, they can only provide the fundamental rights for the people, and if they are violated, then you can go to the court. However, they also provided the directive principles. Okay, these are basically those features, those provisions which are there, which will be always kept in mind, by the state for for implementing those for the betterment of the people. Okay, so they will always try to improve on the betterment. Okay, improve the quality of life of every citizen. Okay, so those were the directive principles, which was the provisions which was given for the development of the people. However, as there's no money, there's no infrastructure at that time, we will try to implement all these things. But if we fail due to less infrastructure, no money and all that, then at that time you cannot go to the court for its violation. Okay, so the directive principles are basically those provisions which every state should try to implement for the betterment of its people. Okay, so the directive principles, they are those provisions which every state should try to implement for the betterment of the people. However, if they are violated, then you cannot approach the court. Okay, they maintain stability and continuity in domestic and foreign policies, in political, economic, and social matters. They increase value to the fundamental rights of the citizens. So they enhance the fundamental rights of the citizens. Now we will talk about these directive principles. Okay. First one is the socialist principle, to promote the welfare of the people by securing a social order by spreading justice, which is social, economic, and political, and to minimize inequalities in income, status, facilities, and opportunities. This is Article 38. Okay, so this says that to promote the welfare of the people. So this means that every person should be given equal justice. Okay, every person should be given equal justice, and to minimize differences in income, status, facilities, opportunities in jobs and all that, then facilities which are given by the government. So only the rich should not enjoy those facilities, and poor should not and poor is not allowed to enjoy. So it shouldn't be like that, that everyone should be treated equal. Then in income, like men and women, they are given different, there are some differences in income for men and women, all those things. So for equal work, there should be equal money to be given, equal salary should be given. So the socialist principle, the first point says that to give equal justice to all its citizens, and to minimize inequalities in income, status, facilities, and opportunities. Okay, so this is the first point of our socialist principle. The second is to secure the right to adequate means of livelihood for all citizens. So everyone should have a decent lifestyle. Okay, to equitable distribution of material resources of the community for the common good. Okay, prevention and of concentration of wealth and means of production. Then equal pay for equal work for men and women. Everyone should be given equal pay for their equal work. Okay, preservation of the health and strength of workers and children against forcible abuse. Okay, so health facilities should be given to children and to work and all those things on to people. Okay, opportunities for healthy development of children. Okay, so there should be a health facilities for children, all these things. Okay, so this is Article 39. Then third one, to promote equal justice and to provide free legal aid to the poor. So, to promote equal justice to every citizen of this country and to try to give free legal aid to the poor, which means that for the poor, then free lawyers should be hired for them and all those things, so that we can bring equal justice for all sections of the society. To provide the right to work, to educate, and to public assistance in cases of unemployment, old age, sickness, and disablement. Okay, to provide, to secure the right to work, for education, everyone should be educated, and then public assistance like the employment exchange which is there in case of unemployment. Okay, then old age homes should be given facilities for old people and all. Then sickness and disablement, article 41, that's what it says. Now article 42, to provide provision for just and humane condition for work and maternity relief, which means that for people who are working in harsh conditions like in factories and in mines and all those things, so they should be provided with just humane conditions, which means it should be like the environment should be decent enough and should be humanable enough that a person can survive there and he can work there peacefully. Okay, so it shouldn't be very hard for them to work in those factories and all those things, so this should be avoided and all. So it was written in article 42. To secure a living wage, a decent standard of living, and social and cultural opportunities for all workers. Okay, so to secure a living wage, a decent standard of life, so everyone should be paid in such a manner that they can at least live their life properly. Okay, so that's what is said, to secure a living wage. Okay, the salaries which should be given, it should not be too less that it is very difficult for them to survive. Okay, a decent standard of life should be there, and social and cultural opportunities for all workers. So this is what is written in article 43. To take steps to secure the participation of workers in the management of industries, so the workers, they should be given their place in the management, so their voice should be heard. If there's something which is bothering them, so that should be heard by the management, and the management should work forward to help them and to resolve their problems, and everyone should be treated equally and all those things. So this is written in article 43a. To raise the level of nutrition and the standard of living of people and improve public health. Okay, to raise the level of nutrition and all. So this is written in article 47. Okay, to improve public health, hospitals should be made and all those things. So just imagine these things. Okay, so when we got our freedom, okay, so if all these provisions were made as justiciable, okay, if they was made justiciable, then how difficult was it been then for the government to run the country, because we didn't had that much economy, and we didn't had so much infrastructure and all that. So that's why it would have been so much difficult for them at that time to do these things for the people. Okay, so that's why these were made as provisions where the government will always try to help these to implement these things. But if they fail to do so in various reasons, then you cannot approach the court. Okay, so this is what were the directive principles. Gandhian principles: to organize village panchayats and provide them with necessary powers and authority to enable them to function as units of self government. What does this mean? This means that every village should have a panchayat, and the powers should be given to them by the government, so that they can have that much authority, that they can function as a own self government. Okay, so this was brought to uplift the villages in the country, to organize village panchayats and provide them with necessary powers, so they can have that much powers and authority in which they can function as an own self government. Okay, so this was in article 40. This is in article 40. To promote cottage industries on an individual or cooperation basis in rural areas. Article 43, to promote cottage industries in rural areas. Article 43b, to promote voluntary formation, autonomous functioning, democratic control, and professional management of cooperative societies. So earlier in my videos, I had explained what are cooperative societies. Again, I'll explain this. Okay, so basically, a cooperative society is a group of people who come together for a common cause. Okay, who form an association for a common cause. What does this mean? Let's take an example of housing cooperative societies. So in your area and all that, you might have seen housing. There are many housing cooperative society, and you might have always heard about these things. Okay, so what is this? So a group of people, okay, a group of people, they come together and they form an association. Okay, they form an association for what is their common purpose? Okay, their common purpose is to build houses. This is their common purpose, right? They want house to live in, right? That this is their common purpose. So they come together and they form a cooperative society, and their common purpose is to build houses. So what they do, they basically try to buy a huge chunk of land, like acres of land, and they divide among themselves, and they build their houses. So this is the normal procedure. Okay, so what is said is that the people who come together and they form a cooperative society, okay, they form an association for a common cause, they are self governing. Okay, which means they can make their own rules and regulations, they can choose their own members and all that thing. Okay, so the government should not interfere in all those things. So these are what are called as cooperative society, which is a group of people who come together for a common cause, and they are self-governing, autonomous. Okay, so they are self-governing societies, self-governing associations. So they make their own rules and regulations, they choose their members and all those things. Okay, so this is what is meant by cooperative society. One more is most common and most old cooperative society is the consumers society. Okay, in a layman's term is the shopkeepers society. Okay, so you might have seen like these shopkeepers, okay, who provide household materials and all those things. So they have their own association also. Okay, so they have their own association, they have their own rules and regulations, so all those things. Okay, so they buy goods in a wholesale rate, in a huge chunk for a lesser rate, and they come to their own areas where their shops are, and they sell it to the common people. So they have their own associations and all these things. Okay, so this is what is meant by cooperative society. So the Gandhian principle, it says that to promote these cooperative society, we should promote this cooperative society. It is a directive principle of state policy under Gandhian principles. Okay, so it's under 43b article. To promote the education and economic interest of SCs, STs, and other weaker sections of the society, and to promote them with social injustice and exploitation. Article 46, it says that we should promote the people who belong to the weaker sections of the society. So we should promote them, the SCs, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, and other weaker sections of the society, the state should always try to promote them through education. Okay, so which means that in institutes and all, there are fee concession, less fees for people from weaker sections of the society, and there are reserved seats for them, and these things, they also try to promote them, right? So these are the things which actually try to promote the people of the weaker section, so that they can come, they can uplift themselves, okay, for their development. Then the next one is to prohibit the consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs which are injurious to health. Article 47. So to prohibit the consumption of drinks and all those things, and wines and all those things, and drugs, okay, which these things which are injurious to our health. So to prohibit it, to ban it, okay, this is what is said in Article 47. Okay, then it's Article 48, to prohibit the slaughter of cows. Okay, to prohibit the slaughter of cows, calves and cattle, to and to improve their breeds. Okay, that is that what means by animal husbandry. Okay, to prohibit the slaughter of cows and all these things. So this is what is written in Article 48. Sorry. Then is liberal intellectual principles. What are these things? To secure for all citizens an uniform civil code throughout the country, which means that everyone should follow the same rules, the same laws. So everyone should follow the same rules, same laws. So one code, one rule, and everyone should follow that. So that is what is written in Article 44, to secure for all citizens a uniform civil code throughout the country. Everyone should follow the same rules and regulations, the same laws which is written in a constitution. Article 45, to provide early childhood care and education for all citizens until they complete the age of 6 years. Okay, to provide early childhood care and education for the children until they complete the age of 6 years. So it's written in Article 45. Okay, however, now the fundamental right itself says that every child should be given education till the age of 14 years. Okay, to organize agriculture and animal husbandry on modern and scientific lines, which means that the agriculture and also it still follows outdated methods and all, but for doing agriculture and animal husbandry, new techniques should be brought in. Okay, new modern techniques, as the technology has increased so much, even technology should be invested and should be made in these things. Okay, so technology should be used in making uh, new techniques in which you can improve the agriculture and animal husbandry. So this is written in Article 48, to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard forest and wildlife. So to protect the environment, Article 48A says that we should protect our environment and to safeguard our forest and wildlife. Article 49, to protect monuments, places, and objects of artistic or historic interest which are declared to be of national importance, which means that the monuments, hundreds and hundreds of years of years old monuments and places which have historic interest, okay, which is important, which is the pride of a nation. So we should protect those things. Okay, we should protect as citizens, and even the state should protect those monuments, those places. So that is what is written in Article 49, to separate the judiciary from the executive in public services of the state. So the judiciary should be completely separate from the executive. Article 50. So this is what it talks about, to promote international peace and security and maintain just and honorable relation between nations, to respect international law and treaty of obligations, and to encourage settlement of international disputes. Article 51. So this talks about that there should be international peace. Okay, so even the nations, they should be cooperative with each other. Okay, they should always try to maintain peace in the world. Okay, so this is what these things talks about, article 51. Okay, so this is the end of our directive principles of state policy. Okay, I hope you enjoyed my lecture. So thank you so much. Bye bye.